if you are new here, I'm Kaniti, and if you're already watching my One Piece Chill channel, welcome back! Today we are going to talk about the recent chapters, so spoiler alert if you're not up to date with manga, now you have been warned. I'm going to talk about chapter up to 1066, and yeah, we are going to talk about Vegapunk, his design, a bit about the themes that are incorporated in his character, and also about his name and its meaning. We saw Vegapunk's true body in the recent chapter. We saw him in his 40s and in his 60s. In his 40s, he still had that huge forehead, and it was growing as he was becoming smarter. So, probably the knowledge that he was acquiring had to be stored somewhere, and that's why his head was growing. But then we met him in his 60s, and he had nothing here. He had this huge head, probably went to his copies or his altars, his satellites, however you call them. So his main body, Stella, doesn't have any of that brain left or very little of it, which is also shown, I think, in how goofy he is in his main body. And in his design, we see there's like a core here, like a stick, and the top of it is like a cap of an apple. This could also be seen like an apple. The meat was taken out of it and only the core remains. And it also makes sense thematically because his main body is the core of Vegapunk. So it's just a little play on words here. I don't know if Oda was intending any of this, but he for surely was intending to make Vegapunk in his 60s look like Albert Einstein, because this is a reference that many, I think, have noticed. There is a photo of Albert Einstein with his tongue sticking out, and it's probably what inspired the design of Vegapunk in his 60s. And also the apple on his head would be a reference to another scientist, Isaac Newton. There is a myth that Isaac fought to write down the theory of gravity, like the rules of gravity, when he saw an apple fall from the tree. And there's also a theory that an apple fell on his head, so it works very well with the placement of an apple on Vegapunk's head. But also thinking about that myth with Newton and an apple and the tree, it of course made me remember the ancient myth of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, where there was a tree of knowledge, and Eve was tempted by devil, I think, to take this apple from the tree, and that's how the people got the knowledge of good and evil. So apple, being this huge symbol of knowledge, works really well with Vegapunk as a huge scientist, as a scientific genius. But also there are some other theme of curiosity, of temptation, because Eve was tempted, she was curious about that apple, right? So this theme of curiosity also works well with a character who is a scientist, because of course curiosity is what drives inventions. But there's also this theme of something forbidden, and I think that's what's really interesting, because apple is also a fruit, and my mind immediately goes to devil fruits, and Vegapunk was researching devil fruits, and in SBS for volume 48, Oda has said that a certain scientist is going to tell us about the true nature of devil fruits when we meet him. I think that's really interesting, and there are a lot of themes in One Piece that I think were inspired by this old myth, Christianity myth also. So I think this tree of knowledge could be something that had devil fruits at first, and devil fruits are something that give you some kind of knowledge, right? You can now do things you weren't able to do before. And they also called devil fruits. Meanwhile, the devil was the one who tempted Eve to take the fruit. So I think this just intertwines with everything very neatly. And Vegapunk, I think, being a core character that knows so much, that did so much research, he's like the key for us to know more, to learn more about the nature of devil fruits, about the mysteries in One Piece. So him having that apple on his head again, I think works just perfectly for his design, because it's simultaneously a symbol of knowledge, a symbol of curiosity, a symbol of fruits, devil fruits, you could say, right? You could argue, a symbol of something forbidden. So from him we can learn the secrets, we can learn these forbidden mysteries. And he also works with this technology that he thinks might come from that void century. That could also mean working with something forbidden, right? Especially since he seems to be wanting to share this technology with the world. And at home, on his home island, I think it was also mentioned that he was very eager to share his inventions with people. But world government doesn't let him. They only want these inventions to benefit them, the world government. They don't want them distributed to the world. And now they also want to get rid of Vegapunk. So I think this symbolism of apple being something forbidden also comes really neatly in the picture. Again, as I said, this is just me analyzing it and showing how perfect this apple is from all points of view. It doesn't mean that I crawled in Oda's head and saw that he definitely was thinking about all of that, and not only say the myth of Newton and that was it. He just drew an apple because it looked cool. Maybe he didn't have it all in his head, but it just worked out so well. You also could argue that apple is a symbol of discord when it comes to Greek mythology, and obviously there were some references to Greek mythology in One Piece and in theme of altars with Vegapunk, but the theme of discord doesn't really fit in here. Again, I don't think it was intended, but if we want to really stretch that and add this in to sprinkle in some discord, Vegapunk could be this important piece to bring more discord into One Piece world. That's why world government wants to get rid of him. That's why we got an arc with him. We met him so we can interact with Vegapunk, maybe help him somehow, maybe protect him from CP, from world government. And then getting this information, we as a Straw Hats will be able to bring more discord in the world. But again, as I said, it's more like stretching it. I think I could make like a whole separate video talking about this inspiration by Christianity myth in One Piece, because when I was thinking about this idea with the apple and about Adam and Eve, and also thought, okay, so these celestial dragons, they are seen as gods, and what world government was talking about, another the great cleansing of the world. It really sounds like great flood to me, from the myth about the god deciding that there are too many like bad people in the world and that it had to be cleansed through that great flood, and only certain people have survived. And this also made me feel that great flood also would work so well with the world, where the majority of the planet, I would say, is water. It consists of many islands, even though, as we saw, world government doesn't choose this technique of getting rid of the islands. They seem undesirable, they don't flood them. Still, I think this analogy works so well, and this is why I think we can find some clues and some answers to our One Piece mystery in Christianity. Because if we think about it, what Vegapunk was talking about, that maybe there was this kingdom that fought with 20 other kingdoms, and then something happened, that kingdom was erased, all of its technology was forgotten, etc, etc. It probably was kind of the first great flood, so to say, the first cleansing, and now we are in danger of a second cleansing. As they say, the history repeating itself. Okay, I got a little bit distracted by this because I think this theme is also very interesting. But there's also another very interesting and important theme connected to Vegapunk, and it's the theme of cosmos, of space, and stars. It's just everywhere. I found it in every single of his altars, in himself, in his name, because it's just his copies themselves are called satellites. Satellites are these machines that fly in the cosmos. Well, I even wrote it down. It's a word used for objects that are intentionally placed into orbit in outer space. And similar satellites can work together as a group, forming constellations. So you could argue that the satellites of Vegapunk form a constellation. And constellations usually a word also that you use for a group of stars. Yes, and Vegapunk's name also holds the name of the star, Vega. So it is the brightest star in this constellation of Lyra. And Vegapunk is his main body, right? So you could argue this is the brightest star, the main star in his constellation of Vegapunk. So I think this just works beautifully. And his main body is also called Stella, which means star in Latin. And that's not all. His catchphrase, quasar, is a quasi-stellar object, extremely bright, holds insane amounts of energy, and is powered by a supermassive black hole. So his catchphrase is also connected to space, to this very interesting object that is very bright, has a lot of energy. I think this also fits Vegapunk so well because he's a very bright scientist. He has a lot of energy in creating, inventing all these interesting things. And he is powered by a supermassive black hole. Well, again, stretching it a bit, you could say he is powered by world government, which is, you could say black hole because they are the bad guys. Let's put it this way, right? And he gets money, he gets funding from them. But again, that's just, I don't know, playing around with it, making it sound more fun. And his island also looks futuristic, but also kind of space theme related as you look at it. And the boots that they have, they also make me think like they are walking around the moon. All the buildings on his island. I think with some of the buildings you can also see these rings, the rings that you could see around the planets. So the theme continues here, and satellites themselves, that's what also very interesting, can be all connected to space theme through their names. So first of all, we have Shaka. It's very interesting because in the translation that I read at first, he was answering for logic or justice. But then when I was preparing for this video, I went to Wiki and it showed that Shaka is representing the good in Vegapunk. So I think there's something like with translation, but I guess the part of justice could be seen as good. But it was said in the translator's notes that the character used for this, what he represents, can be read as star. And if we translate his trait as being good, it works really well because his name could be a reference to a Japanese name of Buddha. The moon is also a huge symbol in Buddhism. So again, going back to this cosmos, space bodies, talking about the moon. And Buddha theme also works very well, I think, with this justice, good trait. Also, the name Shaka can be a reference to Saint Seiya character, Virga Shaka. And also, she is associated with the Virga constellation. It's actually my star sign, Virga, so I found it very sweet. Then we have Lilith. She's kind of the evil of Vegapunk, and it is the name of a fictional dark moon, and it goes well with her trait of being evil, right? The dark moon. Then Edison, it was a notable inventor, and the crater on the moon is named after him. And I think again it goes so well with his trait of creativity, that an inventor creativity of course works well together, but also yes, the crater on the moon was named after that inventor. So again we have this connection to space, to the moon. Then we have Pythagoras. He works very well also because Pythagoras is a Greek mathematician and astronomer, and another moon crater was named after him. So again, the theme of wisdom works really well because it was a mathematician and astronomer, but also him being an astronomer and another crater on the moon being named after him also connects us to this space theme. Then Atlas, that's very interesting. It is a name of a titan who had to hold up the heavens, but also a constellation, a moon crater, and a satellite on Saturn were all named after him. So I think the heavens themselves could be a reference to the star cosmos theme, but of course all of these things in the space being named after Atlas ties us to this theme of space. Also, what is interesting, atlas is a word that you would use when you describe a map of stars, right? You say star atlas. As a satellite of Vegapunk, he has a theme. She has sorry, because I was talking about the Titan, so I was saying he, but yeah, she has a theme of wrath or violence. I'm not sure how it fits, but maybe it's connected kind of with the myth of Atlas being about the war between Titans and Olympians. I couldn't really find any other connection to that trait here. And finally, we have York or Yok. So in ancient Mesopotamia, the name of the Arcturus constellation was Shudun, which would mean Yok. And I don't see any connection with the desire or greed theme here, honestly. Other than that, I don't know, maybe in Mesopotamia, I think they had an ideology of Misharum, and I think the main idea of Misharum was to enjoy life. So your point of living, why are you living? Why are you here on this planet? Because you are here to enjoy life. You are here to take everything you can and have fun. Well, there's nothing else to be said. So this idea of desire, I guess that's the best connection that I could find is with Misharum, since we are talking about the name from ancient Mesopotamia. But yeah, I think that's really interesting. And also, what is interesting, because I think in Misharum there was a belief in their cosmogony that after your death, you will take your place in cosmos, actually. There are these sections in the space for every soul, for every person, and you will be the part of space. So again, connecting us to this theme. So as you can see, it took me quite some time to go through all of these references in Vegapunk and his paths to moon and the stars. And I think that is really important because I can't quite put my finger on it yet. I feel like I have to reread all of the One Piece and construct really decisive theory, but it really it's so important for the mysteries in One Piece, you know. Remember that cover page with Enel, right? When he was looking is at this, I don't know how to call it. It was obviously something important, something about the past. And the moon itself is obviously a very important piece in all of this. Like, think about it. Minks, they get their long form when the moon is out and they're looking at the full moon. There are some very important themes here connected, some very important mysteries connected to the space in One Piece. So Vegapunk having this very prominent theme of stars and moon and space strikes me as very important. We know that he is a pretty crucial character. We learned about him very early on. We were very curious about him. He holds a lot of knowledge. So I think this is kind of really a hint that he will be the key to, again, to some of the mysteries in One Piece. Of course, he could also just have this space theme because Einstein was also interested in space and time, so it could be just Oda working further with his inspiration from Einstein, taking this theme and incorporating it in Vegapunk. It could also be the fact that cosmos, we are still researching it, so it's something that you think about when you think about current scientific achievements and scientific aspirations. So it also works well for this huge scientist in One Piece world. The theme of something futuristic, of space, of cosmos, it just fits really well. But still, I really wanted to talk about this and to highlight this theme of stars and cosmos and moon in Vegapunk in his copies, because I truly feel that this is super important for One Piece and its mysteries. I think it could be its own separate video. As I said, this video is more of an analysis, looking for hidden meanings in Vegapunk's design and everything that surrounds Vegapunk, everything that's related to Vegapunk. So if you have any thoughts here on the moon and stars theory for One Piece, please share them in the comments. Maybe we can construct some very good theory for these mysteries, something connected to the moon. Like maybe if we went back to that Christianity myth and took it and tied it with the theme of moon and stars in One Piece, we could even go as far as to say that moon was like a garden of Eden, right, from the Christianity myth, and people they first appeared there, but then they got some knowledge and they went from the moon to the earth, and there on earth everything went down, everything happened. So this is an interesting thing, but there are many different peoples in One Piece world, so it could also mean that maybe only one kind of race went from the moon to Earth, so Earth was already inhabited by the many different tribes, and this tribe that came from the moon really made some big changes. Okay, well, yeah, as I said, this is for another video. I just can't stop thinking of different theories and trying to analyze them. But going back to Vegapunk, yeah, we saw him in his 60s without his huge brain, as I mentioned before. And as we know, there are different parts in human brain that are responsible for different functions, but still One Piece is not purely scientific. We could say that maybe in One Piece different parts of brain are responsible not for what they are in the real world. I'm sorry, I'm not a neuroscientist, okay? But they are responsible for being good, for being evil, for logic, for creativity, etc. And so Vegapunk, he cut his brain up in these parts and distributed it to his copies, to parts of him, to his satellites, and so every one of them has a different section of Vegapunk's brain, and that is what decides their main trait, right? But also, as I mentioned, I wanted to talk more about these satellites in a separate video. Today we discussed their names, how they're connected to the star theme, and a little bit on how I think they were created, because it ties into the design of Vegapunk, which I promised we are going to talk about, so I had to mention that. But a bit more in depth, I would like to talk about them in a separate video. But now we are coming to the last part of this video, and it is Vegapunk's name. Well, this is going to be very short and sweet, as we have discussed earlier. The first part of his name, Vega, is a star, and the second part of his name, Punk, this could be something connected to technology. As we know, the word steampunk is about this technology that is connected to steam, about, you could say, this aesthetic of the times where steam technology was on the rise. We would call it steampunk. So the word punk goes well with the theme of technology, but we could also see punk as, of course, another meaning. As you could notice, Kid also has this punk in some of his attacks that could be described as mechanical. You could argue, right? He collects these details and kind of builds something from them, so it's not quite technology, I would say, but still creation of something, something mechanical, right? Goes well with that first meaning. But also, Kid is a punk. He is somewhat of a rebel, right? So this word punk can also mean someone with a rebellious nature. Now, going back to Dr. Vegapunk himself, we either have this combination of Vega, which is nature, stars, something like that, right? And combination of punk, which is technology. So this is an interesting balance between space and earth, between nature and technology in Vegapunk. So this is a very pretty and interesting name, but also it could mean his rebellious nature in theory, probably. Like right now, yes, he is working for world government, but he is not their complete lapdog. He has his own opinions. He makes his own decisions. He granted Kuma's wish. He obviously keeps in touch with Dragon. So you could argue that he has some of that rebellious nature in him. So he could be this rebellious star, Vegapunk. Another kind of meaning for his name. Alright, I think that would be it for today. I really wanted to share this analysis of Vegapunk's kind of hidden meanings, themes, and design. I hope you enjoyed it, and please share your thoughts and opinions in the comments. As I said, I would like to make 2 more parts in Vegapunk series, maybe a separate video with a theory connected to moon and stars in one piece, but that would require more research to construct a more decisive theory that I could actually prove somewhat. So if you have any thoughts on that or any suggestions, please also share them in the comments. Hope to see you soon. Thank you for watching and see ya.